Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to see you again. Thanks very much for returning back for another week of YouTube Reading Live from the St Albert's Infants channel. Remember to say hello if you have anything you want to tell, or any shout outs or any questions you might have. I'll do my best to answer them, even though I might not get the right answer, but at least I'll try. So today we have got James and the Giant Peach from the same author and illustrator that we had last week, Roald Dahl. If you remember last week, we read a couple of chapters from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is a fantastic story, lots of great descriptive words in there, and maybe you read the book since last week. Or you watched one of the films as well. If you did watch one of the films, or even if you watched both of the versions, maybe you could tell us which one you prefer. Okay, I know which one I prefer. I think I said that last week. Much prefer the original one, but the newer one's very good as well, mind you, so can't complain too much about that. For James and the Giant Peach, this was chosen by Huria in Primary 3. So great choice, Huria. Again, I actually remember reading this when I was at primary school. I remember that my class teacher read it to me. I think it was in Primary 6, if I remember rightly. And so I vaguely remember as well that straight after this, my teacher read Charlotte's Web, because that's another story about a spider as well. And I think we were doing Mini Beasts. And this is a fantastic book if any class ever does Mini Beasts, because it is full of characters who are mini beasts. So let's have a little shout out to find out who's here. So first of all, we have got Ayub as well. Hi, Ayub. And Rida. Oh, Rida, I have got your picture downstairs. Bear with me. I'm just going to run downstairs, okay, and I'll show your picture. Okay, I'll be back in 20 seconds. You can count. Okay, go on. I'm back. How long was that? Was that 20 seconds? I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit longer. I was as quick as I could. Anyway, I'll say hello to everybody. So Rida's saying hello as well. I've got something for you, Rida, that you did today when you were in school with me. Ruthless Bill. Who's Ruthless Bill again? I can't remember. Hello to you anyway. Nama Sock. Hi from Mikael and Arjena. Hi, Mikael and Arjena. Lovely that you're watching again. Miss you two so much. Who else is it as well? So I've got Ruthless Bill. I think I've said everybody there. Right, today I'm out of breath for lots of different reasons, because I was actually in school this morning, cycled down to school, and I was in the hub with Rayanne and Rida, and we were doing some exciting things. We were measuring part of the playgrounds, which is very important because there's loads of new things that are getting done at the school, and if you've not seen the school, the outside of it, maybe you could go for a wee walk past it or a drive past, because it looks amazing. It's a totally different colour. So much better than it was before. And just wait till you get a chance to see inside the school as well, because all the teachers and all the staff have been furiously trying to make sure that all the walls and things are so much brighter and more colourful. So Rida's been waiting for you since 2. Well, quite right. I will leave you no longer to wait, Rida, because in class today, when I was with Rida, she made this fantastic creation, and I think most of it is with coloured tape, but I also know that she used some tissue paper and some glue to stick down as well, and some of her own felt tip pens. Okay, and I think I had said at one point, I said, oh, that looks a little bit like the Scotland flag, and I think then she just went and did some more designs as well on it, so it looks fantastic. Well done, Rida. You should be really proud of that. You worked really hard on it. Okay, and I'll maybe give it a little show as well at the end, just in case anybody misses it. So well done to you. I was really proud of your efforts today. And you're live on YouTube as well. How many people can say that? Also, we had Rayan as well who was in, and this was Rayan's effort. So he was using tape as well to make a nice little design. I think he said it looked a bit like a Christmas present, and he's actually done a little bit on the back as well. It's a little bit like a racetrack, actually. So, as I said, I was in school today, so I had to quickly cycle back again. It's far easier going downhill than it is going uphill. So, totally out of breath, ran in, had a drink of water, set up my laptop, and now I'm here. So, it's been a busy day so far, but I was really excited to come back so I could read a couple of chapters from James and the Giant Peach. So, let's see who else is here as well. So, Ali, yes, sorry, Ali, you're ruthless. Well, nice to see you, Ali. And good, I'm glad Ridder's excited. I'm excited as well. So maybe wait another 30 seconds or so, see if anybody else is going to join us. And then we'll read a couple of chapters that I've chosen from James and the Giant Peach. So as I said, there's lots of different changes happening in the school. It's getting painted. We've had lots of volunteers from in and around Pollokshields. And Miss Bull has done a fantastic job of trying to organise it all. But it doesn't just stop at Miss Bull, because when I left, Mr. Forshaw had a big paintbrush in his hand, and he was painting the outside, just outside the infants, white. And inside, we had Miss Milne, who's doing a fantastic design on the wall just outside her room. I won't give too much away because I think she might want it to be a little surprise. But as we all know, Miss Milne's very creative and very artistic, so I'm looking forward to it. She was actually drawing it with pencil first to stencil it out, and then she was going to colour it in as well, so I'm looking forward to that. And then just round the corner, just where the little library bit is in the infants, we had Miss Graham, who was busy doing some characters from famous books. Again, I won't give too many away, but I know that there is at least one character from a Roald Dahl book. And I'll give you a clue, it's not one of the books that we've read so far. So it's not Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it's not a character from James and the Giant Peach. Maybe you can have a wee guess, because I might give that one away. Okay, so Miss Graham's been drawing some pictures of a character from one of Roald Dahl's books. See if you can guess. But it doesn't just stop at the infants. In the middle corridor as well, we had Miss Batty, who was busy preparing the walls for her creation, which is going to start tomorrow. And then upstairs, we had lots of the teachers who were drawing pictures of like abstract art along the hallway, which really brightens it up. And they've been putting some inspirational words and things along there. And also they've been doing like stencil work of famous people. I think one of them was Nelson Mandela. So when you go into school in August, it will look completely different. I don't think I've given too much away, so hopefully it'll still be a big surprise when you go in there. But it is well worth it. You won't recognise it. So much better. Anyway, we will start to, where's Miss Graham? I think when I left Miss Graham, I think she was busy still doing her artwork in school, Ridder. So I don't know if she was today. Maybe she has, maybe she's a little bit later. But she was definitely doing very well with that. She's a fantastic artist as well. So she was working really hard on one of her characters. And we have got Ridder. Oh, so Ridder's guess is Matilda. Maybe that's some inside information. You're absolutely right, Ridder. It is Matilda. Yes, Miss Graham's drawn one of the characters of Matilda, as well as other different characters from different stories as well. Okay, so when you get a chance to see it, and I know Ridder was actually going around with me and Rayanne and Miss Forteith today, taking photographs of all the different walls, inside and outside, just to show how much it's changed. It's so much better. So this is James and Giant Peach, as chosen by Huria in Primary 3. So I'll read a couple of chapters from this. So sit back, relax, maybe get a little bit of a drink of juice or something like that, just to make you feel more comfortable. This is starting at chapter 13. A few minutes later, Miss Spider had made the first bed. It was hanging from the ceiling, suspended by a rope of threads at either end, so that actually it looked more like a hammock than a bed. But it was a magnificent affair. and the stuff that it was made of shimmered like silk in the pale light. "I do hope you find it comfortable," Miss Spider said to the old green grasshopper. "I made it as soft and silky as I possibly could. I spun it with gossamer. That's a much better quality thread than the one I use for my own web." "Thank you so much, my dear lady," the old green grasshopper said, climbing into the hammock. "Ah, this is just what I needed. Good night, everybody. Good night." Then Miss Spider spun the next hammock, and the ladybird got in. After that, she spun a long one for the centipede, and an even longer one for the earthworm. "And how do you like your bed?" she said to James when it came to his turn. "Hard or soft?" "I like it soft, thank you very much," James answered. "For goodness sake, stop staring around the room and get on with my boots," the centipede said. "You and I are never going to get any sleep at this rate. And kindly line them up neatly in pairs as you take them off. Don't just throw them over your shoulder." James worked away frantically on the centipede's boots. Each one had laces that had to be untied and loosened before it could be pulled off. And to make matters worse, all the laces were tied up in the most terrible, complicated knots that had to be unpicked with your fingernails. It was just awful. It took about 2 hours. And by the time James had pulled off the last boot of all and had lined them up in a row on the floor, 21 pairs altogether, the centipede was fast asleep. "Wake up, centipede," whispered James, giving him a gentle dig in the stomach. "It's time for bed." "Thank you, my dear child," the centipede said, opening his eyes. Then he got down off the sofa and ambled across the room and crawled into his hammock. James got into his own hammock, and oh, how soft and comfortable it was compared with the hard, bare boards that his aunts had made him sleep on at home. "Lights out," said the centipede drowsily. Nothing happened. "Turn out the light," he called, raising his voice slightly. James glanced around the room, wondering which of the others he might be talking to, but they were all asleep. The old green grasshopper was snoring loudly through his nose. The ladybird was making whistling sounds as she breathed. And the earthworm was coiled up like a spring at one end of his hammock, wheezing and blowing through his open mouth. As for Miss Spider, she had made a lovely web for herself across one corner of the room, and James could see her crouching right in the very centre of it, mumbling softly in her dreams. "I said, turn out the light," shouted the centipede angrily. "Are you talking to me?" James answered him. "Of course I'm not talking to you," the centipede answered. "That crazy glowworm has gone to sleep with her light on." For the first time since entering the room, James glanced up at the ceiling, and there he saw a most extraordinary sight. Something that looked like a gigantic fly, but without wings. It was at least 3-4 feet long, was standing upside down upon its 6 legs in the middle of the ceiling, and the tail end of his creature seemed to be literally on fire. A brilliant greenish light, as bright as the brightest electric bulb, was shining out of its tail and lighting up the entire room. "Is that a glowworm?" asked James, staring at the light. "It doesn't look like a worm of any sort to me." "Of course it's a glowworm," the centipede answered. "At least that's what she calls herself. Although actually, lady fireflies without wings. Wake up, you lazy beast." But the glowworm didn't stir, so the centipede reached out of his hammock, picked up one of his boots from the floor. "Put out that wretched light," he shouted, hurling the book up to the ceiling. The glowworm slowly opened one eye and stared at the centipede. "There's no need to be so rude," she said coldly. "All in good time." There's not many illustrations, but there's an illustration that we have of the glowworm at top and James in his silk web hammock at the bottom. Sorry, what was that saying? Let's have a wee read. Hi, Mr. Corey. My name is Cordy. A mini goody. Good evening. Good evening to you too. And my name is Boutique Rise in the book. Oh, very nice. Come on, shouted the centipede, or I'll put it out for you. Oh, hello, James, the glowworm said, looking down and giving James a little wave and a smile. I didn't see you come in. Welcome, my dear boy. Welcome, and good night. Then, click, out went the light. James Henry Trotter lay there in the darkness with his eyes wide open, listening to the strange sleeping noises that the creatures were making all around him, and wondering what on earth was going to happen to him in the morning. Already he was beginning to like his new friends very much. They were not nearly as terrible as they looked. In fact, they weren't really terrible at all. They all seemed extremely kind and helpful, in spite of all the shouting and arguing that went on between them. Good night, old green grasshopper, he whispered. Good night, Ladybird. Good night, Miss Spider. But before he could go through them all, he had fallen fast asleep. Chapter 14. We're off, someone was shouting. We're off at last. James woke up with a jump and looked about him. The creatures were all out of their hammocks and moving excitedly around the room. Suddenly, the floor gave a great heave, as though an earthquake was taking place. Here we go, shouted the old green grasshopper, hopping up and down with excitement. Hold on tight. What's happening? Cried James, leaping out of his hammock. What's going on? The ladybird, who was obviously a kind and gentle creature, came over and stood beside him. In case you didn't know, she said, we're about to depart forever from the top of this ghastly hill that we've all been living on for so long. We're about to roll away inside the great, big, beautiful peach to a land of what? Asked James. Never mind, said the ladybird. But nothing could be worse than this desolate hilltop and those two repulsive ants of yours. Hear, hear, they all shouted. Hear, hear. You may not have noticed it, the ladybird went on, but the whole garden, even before it reaches the steep edge of the hill, happens to be on a steep slope. And therefore, the only thing that has been stopping this peach from rolling away right from the beginning is the thick stem attached to the tree. Break the stem, off we go. Watch it, cried Miss Spider, as the room gave another violent lurch. Here we go. Not quite, not quite. At this moment, continued the ladybird, our centipede, who has a pair of sharp jaws, is up there on top of the peach, nibbling away at that stem. In fact, he must be nearly through it, as you can tell from the way we're lurching about. Would you like me to take you under my wing so that you won't fall over when we start rolling? Well, that's very kind of you, said James, but I think I'll be all right. Just then the centipede stuck the grinning face through a hole in the ceiling and shouted, I've done it! We're off! We're off! The others cried. We're off! The journey begins, shouted the centipede. And who knows where it will end, muttered the earthworm. If you have anything to do with it, it can only mean trouble. Nonsense, said the ladybird. We're all now about to visit the most marvellous places and see the most wonderful things. Isn't that so, centipede? There's no knowing what we shall see, cried the centipede. We may see a creature with 49 heads who lives in the desolate snow. And whenever he catches a cold which he dreads, he has 49 noses to blow. We may see the venomous pink-spotted scrunch who can chew up a man with one bite. It likes to eat 5 of them roasted for lunch and 18 for its supper at night. We may see a dragon. Nobody knows that we won't see a unicorn there. We may see a terrible monster with toes growing out of the tufts of his hair. We may see the sweet little biddy bright hen, so playful, so kind and well bred. And such beautiful eggs, you just boil them and then they explode and they blow off your head. A gnu and a rhinoceros surely you'll see, and that enormous and horrible gnat, and whose sting when it stings you goes into your knee and comes out through the top of your hat. We may even get lost and be frozen by frost. We may die in an earthquake or tremor. Or nastier still, we may even be tossed on the horns of a furious dilemma. But who cares? Let's go from this horrible hill. Let us roll, let us bowl, let us plunge. Let's go rolling and bowling and spinning until we're away from old Spiker and Sponge. 1 second later, slowly, insidiously, almost gentle, the great peach started to lean forward and steal into motion. The whole room began to tilt over, and all the furniture went sliding across the floor and crashed against the far wall. So did James and the ladybird and the old green grasshopper and Miss Spider and the earthworm and also the centipede, who had just come slithering down quickly from the wall. And that's our 2 chapters for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for staying with us, and hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Just before we go, I will give another show of Ridda's masterpiece. Okay, hello to you again, Ridda. Hope you enjoyed the story, and I will bring this back in for you so you can collect it on Tuesday when you're next back in. All right? So everybody have a lovely day. Thank you for watching. Miss you loads. Make sure that you stay safe, okay? And tune in next Thursday where there'll be another story, and maybe you could give me some recommendations of any stories that you would like me to read. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.